What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to episode 120. We are 300 episodes away from 420. Thank you guys once again for being here. As always, you can listen to the Lombard Trucking Show every Tuesday night, Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern on the iHeartRadio network for Wreaths Across America. And once again, we are training for triathlon Ironman events and raising money for Wreaths Across America to honor America's veterans, as well as raise awareness of the driver health epidemic going on. If you want to donate to Wreaths Across America, you can go to www.wreathsacrossamerica.org/Lombard. Today's episode is a fantastic one, really focused on really honing in on the health and fitness side of things, on another little adjacent part of the transportation industry as a whole. Sometimes when we talk about trucking and logistics, we forget about our friends in the sky who are also helping us out. Before we get rolling, though, got to give a plug to the boys. We got to talk about the sponsor of the show. That's right. We're talking about Super Coffee. And I got to let you know, Prime Day is coming up July 16th, 17th. You're going to be able to get Super Coffee 25% off on those days. And it's my favorite coffee on the go. Had one this morning before I went out. It's got, I'm looking at it, 1 gram of sugar, 0 grams added sugar, 10 grams of protein. Especially if you're at any quick trip, if you're a truck driver, it really is the replacement for anything. You got 150 milligrams of caffeine, so right up there. The energy drink itself, better than a Java Monster. So stay tuned for Prime Day. More announcements on that to come. But with today's episode, this is an amazing person that I'm having on. I've been looking forward to this for a while. They've done a great job, really, grassroots growing their social media, kind of starting off on their own, and then working, collecting, building the content first, almost the same way you'd build a business. You'd get stuff together first. You'd compile whether it's product, you develop it, and then you take it to market. And I've been following them, early on since the beginning. And the job of a flight attendant, it's not the exact same as a driver, but I think it comes with unconventional hours. It's a little bit more difficult. It's not a 9 to 5. It's not going to an office. It's not commuting. It's definitely a different job. It requires a lot of travel. There's a lot of driving time. There's a lot of flying time for flight attendants. But without any further delay, because I know we got some time, I want to bring on Miss Rose herself. She works for Southwest Airlines. Rose, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
My seat back and tray tables are all set. We're ready to take off. Sorry,
seatbelt is on.
Yeah, seatbelts on. We're dialed in, ready to go. Sorry, I couldn't resist a little bit of.
It's okay.
A little bit of flight humor. I know you probably hear it every day, but thank you for being here. Let's, dude. A flight attendant. We were talking before the show. I've had a lot of drivers on this show. They, becoming a truck driver. Some people it was in their blood. Some people it was their comeback story. For other people, they just, they were unsatisfied with corporate America and other stuff going on. What's your story? How'd we get here? How'd you get flying?
So I have been working since I was 15. I actually started off at Six Flags Magic Mountain. So I was in the service industry since I was 15. Kind of slowly worked my way up into becoming a hostess, becoming a waitress, doing kind of private events with waitressing. Just always worked in that industry and also worked at a gym as well. So I did both jobs. But I was in the service industry. It was fun at first, made nice cash tips, but it just wasn't soul fulfilling. And I just knew that I had so much more potential for me. And I knew I had a whole world to explore. Travel has always been important to me. My mom and my dad both love to travel, so they would always take me as a little kid. But I was just waitressing. I was really unhappy. I hated that I had to work for my tips, and if somebody didn't have enough money to tip me, that resulted in me maybe not paying my bills, because in Texas, which is where I live, you only get about 2.15 an hour, and then tips is how you make your money. So I was at my restaurant. I believe I was 20 at this time, but working for a while. And I was just really getting kind of down in the dumps. I was just every day I would come to work and I would just be like, this just isn't for me. What am I going to do with my life? And I was going to go to college, but on my way to registering for my classes, I got in a car accident. So took that as a sign not to go to college. Didn't do that. So I was just super unhappy and I had this just kind of moment. I'm like, if you don't get out of here, you are going to be stuck here forever, like these 40, 50-year olds that were there, and nothing wrong with that, but they were unhappy. And I just years flew by and I was just like, wow, I don't know what I'm going to do. I wrote on a piece of paper, you're going to quit today. Well, you're going to put your month notice in today. With nothing lined up, I was just like, you need to just leave, because if you don't, it'll never happen. There will never be a good time to leave. So I wrote on a piece of paper, you're going to put in your month notice. At the end of the day, I put my month notice in with no plan. Well, within that month, there was a guest and he would always come in. He was a regular of mine and he loved Southwest Airlines, which is the airline I work for currently. And he said, "You know what? You love travel. You talk about it all the time. Why don't you be a flight attendant?" And that idea of being a flight attendant had never crossed my mind. I never thought of being a flight attendant. I just knew that I wanted to do something with travel. And I honestly don't know why it didn't come to me. I think because anytime I flew, I just always saw a lot older flight attendants and I never saw like a 20-year-old flight attendant. And he kept telling me every time he'd come in, you need to be a flight attendant. I'm like, well, maybe this is a sign. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to apply to be a flight attendant. I'll just do it in my 20s. So luckily, the hiring window opened, which I was kind of talking to you, but that hiring window, when it opens, it only opens for a certain amount of hours and then it shuts and it could be closed for years. So after I had made a decision that I was going to apply, it was opening in a week. Within that same week, I met two flight attendants who worked for Southwest that said that they would refer me. So I took that all as signs. I was like, this is the universe, God, higher power kind of guiding me to this direction. And I applied. It was kind of during all the crazy COVID times. So it took a while for them to get back to me, but I applied I got it. I got the interview the first day in training. I was like, okay, this isn't just in my 20s. This is like a life thing. This is not just a a job. This is like a career, and I'm gonna be there till I die. So that's kind of how I got into it.
It's pretty crazy to think about that application process. And for any driver, I know we got some guys tuning in live on Twitter right now, and I can only imagine if a motor carrier was to had a hiring window similar to that, to where if carriers were hiring, they only opened it for X amount of time. I wonder if maybe that's how that can fix like retention or sometimes luring like that. It's interesting because it almost opens up like it would for police officer or firefighter.
Yeah.
Similar thing, like firefighter, you can only apply between these dates. There's a specific test you have to take. But no, I love hearing that story. I mean, and you're absolutely right with like, you know, there everybody's had an experience with that server who's, you know, I hate using the term, but essentially, you know, they would consider themselves past their prime, so to speak. You
Yeah.
know, maybe over the age of 35 into their 40s, and they're genuinely okay. But yeah, they maybe live with like some sort of regret. But you you have to, like, if you do want, you know, to become happier, you have to move a muscle, change a thought. You
Gotta
have
do
to
something.
you got to do it. And you did it the exact a way that I've recommended. I have an episode several episodes ago where I talk about how you do gotta burn the ships. You gotta jump out. You know, you gotta do it like a paratrooper on D-Day. You just gotta jump.
Yes.
Like you
Yeah.
got. There's no like slow rolling. Like you can make a plan. I'll do it. Just like, I mean, I moved from Texas to Connecticut, I moved to Texas from Connecticut, and like I had a plan, which was I'm going over the road. How I got there didn't matter. It's not like how I got there didn't matter. I just knew I was going to leave this warehouse and get, and I had to get here. I still had to figure it out and make the moves. I knew I was going over the road, but I didn't know how I'd get there. So it's awesome. So the training process, how long is that like, so what's training like coming
So
on board?
for each airline, it's different. Delta is, I believe it's 6 weeks. I think United is 8 weeks. Southwest used to be, I believe it was 8 weeks as well, but they kind of crunched it down to a month. Basically, when you do get the job, you you have to pass the physical test, which the physical test, they basically just need to know that you can fit down an aisle, you can fit on the jump seat, and you can go through the emergency exit window. Because you obviously have to you have to like fit to go out there. So they do that. You have to take a drug test. Um, and then if you pass all that, they give you your training date. And mine was on 4th of July. It was my first day. And I'm like, I think this is just a start into my career. The holiday doesn't matter because and I was used to that with waitressing. With waitressing, I didn't get Thanksgiving, Christmas, I didn't get those days off because somebody has to be there. So that wasn't that big of a problem for me with the airlines. I was just like, it's okay. But I started 4th of July. It is a month long for Southwest, and the training, I'm not gonna lie, is probably one of the hardest things I've done. It When you see a flight attendant, you really just think, oh, they're there to serve their beverages. I didn't know before I started the job really how much training does go into play. You essentially are, you know, the passengers are like your babies. You have to take care of them. So if anything were to happen, any medical emergency, the pilots can't do anything. It's us, the flight attendants, who have to tend to their needs. So any heart attack, any seizure, any type of medical problem, if they feel like they can't breathe. Not in my experience, but there's been mothers who've gone into labor early. Like, people don't realize, but we have to be trained, not necessarily for that, because that's a rare occurrence, but we have to be trained for all possibilities. So the first week is very much of an introduction. You have to learn your public announcements. It kind of talks about the aircraft. Um, a little further down, you start learning about medical. You start learning about putting out fires. You have to be CPR certified, and you're getting tested on all of these things. And if you don't pass those tests, they let you go. So and I think for us, like the test, it was like a 90% or above you had to get, and it was hundreds, a few, maybe like 150 questions, and you had to get basically like an A on it. And you have to do all those things. You have to evacuate an aircraft. You have to, if we land in water, you have to be able to swim and go on the raft, get yourself up, put that life vest on. You have to know how to, put out different types of fires. So you have to be trained on all the equipment as well. Once you pass all of that, then you're a flight attendant, and that all everything that you learn, it seems like so much. Like, I remember in training being like, this job is so much harder than what I thought it was. Like, this is not what I had expected. I thought I would just like be serving drinks. Like, the actual part of our job that we do 90% of the time wasn't even really the highlight. All the highlights was those emergency procedures. So, but you do have to know what to do in case that happens. And just in my 2 years of being a flight attendant, I've had over medical emergencies. So going forward in my career, I'm going to see more. But training was wild.
No, it's actually it's awesome to for me to know, because that's the thing, the general public. And what I love is I love being able to draw these comparisons where, number one, for certain airlines, and just so you know, the training to be a flight attendant is longer than that it takes for somebody to acquire a commercial driver's license, and that's to drive a 80,000 pound truck on America's highways. And people think that the truck driver is just driving, when there's more to that too. There's a whole lot, you're doing a whole lot more than driving, especially when it comes to unhooking and hooking and rehooking to different trailers, and having to know, like, one of the biggest things in CDL school that I think a lot of people don't know about is, like, you need to be able to pass a pre-trip inspection. So if you're not mechanically inclined, you need to know, like, certain engine components, and you need to know parts of the trailer. And so there's stuff you need to know. Similarly, like, you need to know where the fire extinguisher is at, where to put fires out. You need to be able to do a brake test, and there's, like, different sorts of things. But being a flight attendant, a little bit longer of training. But if you do the math, 5 medical emergencies in 2 years, you double that, it's 10. You're talking about dozens of medical emergencies. And even if it's over the course of a 30-year career, say, that's still dozens of times where you're needed in some people's most urgent times. But the training being that I guess the training being that difficult, you need to get 90% on tests, CPR certified, being able to swim, like, the physical part definitely is, like, fitting down the aisle is, like, something that's like, oh man, if it's like I look at that, like, how would the DOT physical for a truck driver equate to the same physical flight attendants get? It's interesting to know, because that was going to lead into my next question, is, like, because you maintain a lifestyle on the road. The name of the episode has you as your Instagram name, which is the Fit Flight Attendant. Is the job itself definitely is physically demanding. I was going to ask about, like, the physical requirements. How often do you need to get that physical?
So we used to at Southwest, we used to get that physical. I don't know how often it was, but it was a lot more important. These days, after you've passed, I'm not sure. We do go to recurrent training every year to make sure that we are still, up to date with the equipment, that we know how to evacuate an aircraft and do all of those things. So I'm not really knowledgeable on how often it is, but if you can't perform your certain duties and somebody says something, I believe you can't come back until you are able to do those duties. I don't know how often we get checked up on, I guess, but it is a requirement when you first apply. After that, I'm not really knowledgeable on
Okay.
that.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was any sort of, because I know pilots obviously have, and pilots are different, but I know pilots I know have a
Yeah.
certain.
Yeah. Pilots, because they are actually flying, you need 20/20 vision. You, there's a lot of things that pilots need because of what they are operating. For us, we have a lot of responsibility. It's just in a different way. So it's not as much as the pilots, definitely, but you have to be able to still obviously walk down the aisle, fit on the jump seat, be able to do those things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's get right into that. I mean, the physical, being able to perform your duties. You are in a position to perform the duties better than maybe some other people within the industry. What does a day to day look like being a flight attendant, and kind of, like, so yeah, describe what a day to day looks like for you. Like, I guess, going to work, and, like, maybe how long a stint is that you travel, what that day to day looks like, and then, where does it become challenging? You live a certain lifestyle, very similar to kind of how I lived over the road. You what you eat, you dial in on what you eat. You're able to keep up with a good rigorous level of fitness. Kind of talk about the day to day, and then how you built a healthy lifestyle for that job.
Okay. So I think first I'll kind of go over like a normal day, a normal average flight attendant, and then maybe go into what I do. Because I do feel like what I do is a small percentage. Not that I'm better in any means, it's just like a certain mindset that you need to be able to stay fit with traveling so much. So I would say in just a regular average flight attendant, the day to day, it honestly looks it's all over the place, especially when you're new. It's all over the place. When you have been a flight attendant for a while, you can kind of get those better trips. You can get the days that you want, things like that. When you're new, you kind of just have to go wherever you're needed, the days you want. You're probably working weekends. You're on call. That's a big thing. So for us, we can be on call, which means being on reserve. And being on reserve, they can call you within 2 hours, you have to be at the airport. So you have to kind of be ready. Obviously, you can't drink during that time, so you can essentially be off. But if they need you, you have to be packed up, ready to go. Food, all of those things within 2 hours. So I can give an example of what it's like to already have a trip and what it's like to be on call. So if I have a trip, if I already know I'm going to, let's say California, the day the trip will look like I usually the night before or the day of pack up all of my stuff. I meal prep. Not everybody meal preps, but if you don't meal prep, you are probably spending $200 in 3 days. If you buy the airport food, because we don't really have access to fast food just quickly, it's airport food. That is that is where we are. And as we all know, airport food is very expensive. So if you don't meal prep, you are spending a lot of money on food. And at my airline, we don't have food on the airplane because we don't do those long haul flights. So we have to meal prep. So I'll pack my food, I'll meal prep, get all my uniforms ready, get everything that I need. I'll bring my books and I'll head to the airport. You check in, you go through security sometimes. Then you get on the plane. The day can be 4 hours, it can be 12 hours. You never really know with delays and maintenance issue, aircraft issue. So you might think you're having a 5 hour day, but you're actually having a 10 or 11 hour day. And with being a flight attendant, you have to let go of trying to fight that because you will get so angry if you resist. You just have to go with the flow with this job. The more you resist, the harder it is. So weather has been really terrible. There's been so many storms I know in Texas. So there's many delays. For us, typically, we overnight 2 nights out of this, like a 3 day block. So we're gone for 3 days. We overnight in two different locations. Um, but yeah, the day it can be, like I said, it could be 5 hours or it could be like 11 hours. And when you're on call and they call you for a trip, you really don't know what that's going to look like either. And you have no idea where you're going. You could be going to Hawaii, Costa Rica, or you could be going to Colorado, somewhere cold. So now that it's summer, it's kind of okay, but you have to pack accordingly when you're on call. You have to be like, all right, I got to pack some cold things and some warm things. Um, and when you get off, then you go to your hotel. You can do whatever you want on your overnight. Obviously, like you can't be doing crazy things because you're not technically working, but it's not like you can go do some crazy stuff on your layover. I typically really try to get my steps in. I do work out on my layover, but you can do anything. There's some overnights that people take boat rides. There's some overnights that, in New York, you can go see the Twin Towers. In Colorado, you can go hiking. So, dependent on if you're like an AM or PM, you really could do anything that you want. So, my day to day has been just really crazy. And would you like me to talk about the 75?
Yeah,
Um,
I want to touch. It's crazy to see, like, once again, seeing the comparisons, like especially of how you pack, because it's the same thing in trucking. Like you can pick up a load in Iowa and take it to Florida. And so it's like I've chained down a load and it's 20 degrees, and then you're taking it to where it's 80 degrees. And that's something an early driver, like you learn that the hard way of knowing what you need prepped up. But yeah, I definitely want to hear about how you managed to do 75 hard with this, because especially for any of the drivers watching, I know I've got some of the boys on Twitter tuning in when it comes to that. I think it's sober. It's a sobering thought to hear it from somebody on your side of in this industry saying, like, could be a 6 hour day, could be an 11 hour day. And that same kind of thing happens when you're driving, where, it could be this long, but you could be at that receiver for this long. And I just had one question, like, so that 11 hour day, this is something I did. If I was at a receiver getting unloaded and you're there for hours, that's where I'd get my steps in. I'd
yeah,
go get right outside the truck, and I would just walk back and forth on the truck, get my
yeah.
headset on, talk. And I'm like, during those times, during those days where like you're being, dogged around, whatever, you got to wait, you got to do whatever. Are you able to capitalize on those moments?
Yeah, so I really try when there is time, I try to make my time productive, and I kind of look at it like if I'm on the plane and we're maybe sitting because of a maintenance issue, or there's weather and we're sitting for an hour because we can't take off because there's lightning. Um, well, if there's passengers, that's one thing. I can't do everything that I want to do because I have to make sure they're all okay. I can't like be on my phone or anything like that. But let's say there's no passengers involved and I'm just on the ground or in the airport waiting. I really try to make my time useful. I listen to podcasts. I read books. I am working on a program right now for travelers. It's made for flight crew, but it could be really for anybody. But I'm currently making a fitness program that is where you can do workouts in the hotel. You could do it's going to be all body weight exercises. So I'm working on that. So I'll work on that. I'll get my steps in. I try to get about 10,000 a day. I usually hit that easy on the job just because with the plane we walk a lot, but I try to get my steps in. This year has been a really big step up for me. I really try not to just go on my phone and mindlessly scroll. I see how much time you can waste. And if we're going to wait, like why don't we put our energy into something? Why don't we like grow something on the side? That's kind of my mentality is if I am here and there's nothing I can do about it, why don't I make every minute useful? So I typically will. It's this year, I will say before this year there were times where I would just mindlessly scroll on Instagram, TikTok to like help the time pass. But now I really take advantage of every minute, whether that's steps or even just eating, podcasts, reading, working on my program, maybe calling somebody that I need to. So I really try to utilize my time in that way.
No, that's good. Good. It's a good reminder for anybody listening to hear that, is like taking that deep diagnostic, like that analysis of your time, realizing every minute's valuable and capitalizing on those minutes. I consider minutes, even like any minute I take recording a podcast, having a conversation, valuable, because I'm learning something I didn't know. And I'm going to take that knowledge and pass it forward, and more people can listen to it. And that body weight workout development program you're developing, let's we're going to talk offline on that, because I'd love to help you, especially if that's something you plan on marketing or
Yeah.
selling. I think
Yes.
that's something that can be very applicable
Yes.
to a driver. And it's something people have said I should do it as well, but it's not really where my heart lies. I can do that for anybody one-on-one. The main goal isn't so much the exercise is good and strength training is obviously necessary, but in trucking especially, the difference is you do get a lot more time on your feet, as opposed to drivers are mainly sedentary. And the initial goal is I need to help guys get in the habit of getting out of the seat first, getting into the habit of being mobile before challenging them with like certain workouts and stuff like that is definitely the first step. But any sort of body
Yeah.
program you've got, especially there, we're gonna collab on that. And
Yeah.
especially when if you're in the area, we'll make some videos on that and see
Definitely. I'm excited for that. Yeah, I know it's needed because of how often I hear it. It is different for y'all. Like y'all are sitting, y'all are kind of more like the pilots. Like our pilots are sitting for so long. Whereas flight attendants, we are getting up and doing stuff, but it's really for that layover of because our hotel gyms, you never know where you're gonna get. You can walk in, it's a bench and some dumbbells that aren't even don't even go up to 40 pounds. I've walked in where it's literally like one elliptical and just a few dumbbells in the hotel. So I really realize that if you're not I've been working out since high school and I struggled. I put on 15 pounds when I first started this job because I got completely thrown off. Your world is just a 180. Everything is different. You're leaving home. The gyms are different. They're not fully equipped like how it is. You don't have that squat rack. You don't have things to get that progressive overload that you would when you're home, but we have to make do with what we have because that's all we can do. And we do have our bodies. And I primarily, with my upper body, I usually just do body weight anyway, pull ups, push ups, things like that. For legs, I try to do a little bit more of weights when I am home, but we're given our bodies, and if we just know how to really like utilize them, we could still get a really good workout in. A lot of flight attendants don't know that, and because they don't know what they're doing, they usually end up not doing anything at all. So that is kind of my goal, to spread the knowledge of, hey, this program, you can literally do it in your hotel room. You don't even have to like, you could do it naked if you wanted. You can do it in the comfort of your hotel room because sometimes people don't want to go down and see their coworkers, the pilots that they're working with, or the flight attendants that they're working with. It's kind of vulnerable. Sometimes you're doing vulnerable workouts like hip thrusting, and it's kind of awkward doing that in front of a coworker. So I do want to make it where you can do it in your hotel room, just manipulating your body. And yeah, it's not going to be the most perfect thing like if you were at home and you had a program at home, but it's something. And something, like I said, is better than nothing. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Well said there. Yeah, people shouldn't frown on body weight stuff. Like I said, if you think you need a gym, please get down, hold a plank for 3
Yeah.
minutes, and then
Yeah.
we can
do
revisit.
do a wall sit for as long as you can, and your legs will probably hurt more than doing any type of weight exercise.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, speaking of workouts, and I know, and for anybody listening, because I really want to get into this because I wanted to do 75 hard as a driver, specifically, not even for like here, and this is why it's different. I wanted to do 75 hard when I drove, just for the sole aspect of clout, just to say I did it as a driver. But realistically, it is not conducive to, and I said this in my last episode, it's not conducive because it requires sacrificing sleep. Drivers should not be, just like a pilot should not be sacrificing sleep. Neither should a driver, especially with a job that is hell bent on safety. So it really just doesn't necessarily apply. But I waited until essentially I was mentally ready to do it. But your job, where you're not operating the plane or necessarily operating a truck, you still, number one, you still carry a mental load onto you when you're flying, because at any point somebody could have a stroke, a woman could give birth, somebody could have an asthma attack. So there's definitely a mental load that goes into going to work. Like, it's not just I'm going, it's not like you're going to work like when you were a server. You said you worked in the restaurant
Right.
industry, which is where, for the most part, yeah, you might be working as a part-time therapist for some people, whether you're at a bar or a restaurant. But essentially, the mental load is, you're working in kind of customer service and you're serving. Whereas as a flight attendant, yeah, you're serving them whatever that, but there's definitely a different mental load with it. So you definitely carry a little bit more stress onto it. But you decided to do 75 hard, which, if for anybody first time tuning in, if you don't know what it is, 75 days, you have to do two 45-minute workouts, one of which being outside. You have to read 10 pages of a nonfiction book, drink a gallon of water, stick to a structured diet, not have any cheat meals, and not drink any alcohol. That's essentially the rules in a nutshell. And you, as a flight attendant, were able to do that. Map that out for us. You got it done because it's on your Instagram. I've seen it. I saw
Yeah.
you do it. It's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing.
Thank
Matt,
you.
pan that out for us. How'd that happen? How'd you make it happen? Did you have to start back over at any point? Because, and that's another thing. If you miss up a day, you have to start back at day one. So yeah, map that out for us.
So I'm just gonna say, like, before I do say anything about the challenge, it has changed my life. The 75 hard changed my life forever. It created habits within myself that, like, I almost get like a little bit emotional because it really did change my life. I actually got to meet the creator of the challenge, Andy Frisella, when I went to.
Legend. Yeah.
Yes. And he has his Real AF podcast. If anybody knows what that is, and he is just an amazing, his mindset, his whole family. I am blessed to be a First Form sponsored athlete, which is a supplement company, but there's so much more than that. And I got to meet Andy Frisella himself, and basically to go back 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, my sister, she goes, and the 75 hard, it kind of became a trend on TikTok. Like, everybody kind of tried it, and then everybody tried doing their own versions. Like, there's like the 75 soft, and Andy Frisella has his book on mental toughness, and he's like, there's no other version of this challenge. Yeah, you can make a challenge for yourself, but that's not the 75. And his whole thing is, like, the 75 is the 75. There's no compromise. If you're supposed to drink a gallon of water a day. If you are a ounce short, you have to start over. If that's on day 74 and you're an ounce short, you have to start over. You also have to take a progress photo. I don't know if you stated
Oh
that, but
yeah, I missed the
if
photo. The photo part that will sneak up
the
on you too.
and his whole thing is, it's those, and he does those little things like the photo, the reading the 10 pages. Those seem like small minute things. However, everything is in the details. Things that are big, they might seem like it took all these big steps to get there, but it's really those small details that got you there. Reading 10 pages a day, when I did the 75, I finished 6 books. Before that in my life, I was lucky if I finished a book in a year, and I finished 6. And that was only 10 pages a day. Maybe I read more. Well, and you asked me, did I need to start over? So I did the 75 hard 3 years ago, and I did it when I was a waitress. That was hard in itself. And I don't know if you mentioned this too, but the workouts, they need to be 3 hours apart.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that
It can't be.
adds.
It can't be
Yes,
consecutive.
you can't do like your weighted workout and then your walk or whatever it is outside together. It's not like you can carve out an hour and a half of your time. You have to have 45 minutes of each and 3 hours separated. So when I was a waitress, it was a little easy because I started work at 5 p.m. So I just made sure I was up by the time I needed to get up, did my workouts. I had work at 5, which that already was like pretty taxing. But as a flight attendant, not knowing what time you're going to get called in, not knowing if you're going to get called at 3 in the morning, 11, whatnot, that's a whole nother story. So it was January, I believe, like 5th, 6th, And had no plans on starting the 75 this year. I had tried doing the 75 hard before as a flight attendant, and I'll be honest, I was like, this is too difficult. This is too much. This is too hard. I I don't think it's achievable with my job. And I was like, I did it once before. It's okay. As a flight attendant, I'm just not gonna entertain it because it's just too difficult. Well, January rolls around and my sister was like, I think I'm gonna do it again. And I just had this idea. I was like, this is after my Instagram was kind of taking off. My Instagram took off in December. And in January, I was like, you know what? What if I did the 75 hard? Not only for myself, who it mainly is for, but what if I did it for my followers and for anybody who says that they're not able to do the 75? It is different with y'all because of your sleep. Like, that's not something you need to compromise because that is something that's serious. So, like, you don't want to compromise sleep because of that. But I wanted to prove that I would say being a flight attendant, as well as like a nurse, firefighter, cop, those types of jobs, is probably the hardest job to do the 75. And I was like, if I do this, prove it to myself and prove it to everybody that excuses are just excuses. And if I hear a peep, because I always had so many people say, I would do the 75 hard, but I would do the 75 hard, but. And I'm like, it doesn't even matter what comes after that, but. Anything you say after that just doesn't matter because that is a mindset thing. And I was just like, if I prove to myself I can do it and to everybody, like that is just something I'll be so proud of. And I feel like there's really nothing I can't do. So January 8th, I was like, all right, let's do it. So I started doing it. I think I was off for a few days. So when I'm off, it's super easy. I have nothing I need to worry about. It's really when I'm working. Well, I think until like week one, I failed because I didn't know, and I guess I failed all the other times in the past too because I didn't know that you couldn't switch your book. So if you chose a book, you have to finish that book and then you have to start your new book. Well, I read like 4 pages of a book. I was like, I don't like this one. I started another one, found out on like his FAQ on Andy Frisella's questions that you have to finish that book. So I was like, okay, gotta start over. So a week into it, I started over. And then there was one day where I have this water bottle. It wasn't this one exactly, but and if anybody can't see, it's just this big water bottle. But I woke up the next day and I lifted it and there was water in it and I was like, "Oh no. I didn't finish my water." So had to start over again. There was another time that I didn't know if I got a gallon or not. I was like, I honestly don't know how much water I drank today. I don't know if I drank 3 of these. I don't know if I drank 2 of these. And so because of that guilt, I started over. So it actually took me 4.5 months to finish a 75. So I did it about 150 days. And there was only one day that I was like, okay, that one day I failed. I was like, I'm gonna take the rest of this day to eat a cookie. And then I'm starting again tomorrow. But out of those 150 days, I drank a gallon every single day. I read 10 pages. I did my 2 workouts. I took my progress photo. I had no alcohol at all, not a single sip. There was no compromise. And with my job, there were times where I had to work out in the airport. There were times that I had to work out at 3 in the morning. There were times where I um, really had to plan accordingly. Like, because of the 3 hour difference, I had to say, okay, I have to be at the airport at 3 p.m., which means that I have to drive at this time, which means that I have to do my second workout at this time. Well, 3 hours before that, I have to do this workout. It is so much planning. But at the end of the day, the main thing is just the mindset. It's really having the idea, and I get this from my dad, of just not dead, can't quit. Like, I seriously can't quit. And I watched this documentary. I don't know if you've seen it. Um, it'll come to me. It is called not Iron Man. It's where he does it in Antarctica. Do you know what I'm talking
Oh
about?
yeah, I heard about the guy who did he did an Iron Man in Antarctica.
Yes, yes. So I don't know if you've seen it, but it's one of the best documentaries ever. He did Iron Man in Antarctica. He was faced with seals, killer whales. He was in, obviously it's cold over there, very 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 cold. He biked for, I think it was 2 days straight, because his bike kept falling over in the snow. So he fell, I think it was like 200 times, like something insane of how many times he fell. And I'm like, if he can do that, if this man in Antarctica can do an Ironman, I can do the 75 hard. And anytime I thought of giving up, anytime I was like, I am so tired, like I could honest, and there was a time, this is not at work, this is when I was home. There was a time that I got back from a trip, and I think it was like 2 in the morning. I went to a 24-hour gym, and I was like, okay, just go on the treadmill. At least you're doing like you're doing something. Just go on the treadmill. And I blinked, like a long blink, I guess. And I seriously fell asleep. I started gripping the treadmill like, you're just not giving up. And once you have that mentality of, I seriously will not give up until unless I'm dead, it'll get you where you want to go. And that's kind of like what you need. And, it is an extreme. And a lot of people say, oh, it's unhealthy. It's a la 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 la. Like, yeah, maybe it's extreme, but it's an extreme that changed my life. And if you do it correctly, has changed so many people's lives.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
mean,
it was
it's
wild.
yeah, that's awesome and incredible. Those are some powerful words right there. And really, for anybody who says it's unhealthy, it's not unhealthy. It's short term discomfort that actually has a long term benefit because of how it's changed your life and it's changed your mindset. Um, that it's a great that never quit mentality. I mean, that's what I think of. I mean, when I post a lot of content where I scream about like history and Napoleon and stuff, and that's anytime during a marathon, and especially like during 75 hard, because like that's the thing. People are like, oh well, you worked at a gym, so 75 hard might have been a little bit easier. But I'm also a manager at that gym, so like there's times I had to cover shifts, and it's like I could be coaching at different times of day, so I've got to find that gap where I can, and I've got to wake up like super early before, like still finding that time is very challenging. And the gym I work at is boutique fitness, so it's not like I can finish coaching and then like work out. Like these are regimented classes, but like that, like that's essentially why I don't quit during things, is because I think about stuff like the War of the Third Coalition and like D-Day.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I
I
can't
think
wait to
it's
watch.
Yeah,
It's
if you just, I know it's kind of
disgusting.
like weird, but I think of the people in the Holocaust, or like those times. I'm like, if people can get through stuff like that mentally, like I actually met a Holocaust survivor, and he like talked about it, and it's like those things that I think about that get me through. I'm like, if you can get through that, I can get through staying up at till 3 in the morning doing a workout. It seems extreme, but we're so much more capable of what we think. And it's not like you're gonna die. I always
No,
say that. I'm like, okay, am I gonna die? No. So let me just like keep going. It's not like I'm just gonna fall over. So yeah, I do think like going and having examples like that and really just harnessing that is what gets you through mentally.
yeah, for sure. I gotta ask, so there were times, I mean, you had to do 75 hard while traveling, while going up in the sky. Where were you able to snag the outdoors?
I always did my outdoor workout when I first woke up. I did my outdoor no matter what, and I still get up and walk every single day. And your outdoor can be a walk. It could be a weighted walk. It could be any sort of activity. So I always got up in the morning and gave myself enough time to do that. If I had an AM and it was like let's say I had to get up at 3 in the morning, I wouldn't walk because that's dangerous. So I would walk when I got back, like when I got to the hotel, I would walk, take a nap, and then do my second workout and then go to bed.
Yeah, no, that
uh,
makes sense. Okay, so you were
yeah,
able to
so
get outside and get those because I was one in my mind. I was just like, man, did you ever go out on like the tarmac and were you out like on the like on the
yeah, I
like
think
where
that
the people were
we're
doing?
unfortunately not allowed to go and do stuff like that. That would have been like really cool. And and that's another thing with the planning is I'm like, okay, I the outdoor was really out of anything. That is like kind of the trickiest part because the indoor, you can even there's some people that like on the plane they'll just like keep walking or they'll do like some tricep dips or like incline push-ups on the plane. I never really tried working out on the plane, but there was about 3 times where I did work out in the airport. Like an actual physical workout. I think I posted a video one time and there were so many people looking at me. I was using my luggage to do deadlifts with, squat with. There were many times I walked in the airport, but if we were delayed for like 2 hours on the ground, I was like, okay, let me get my workout in. Like I took every opportunity I could like that to get my workouts in. And it's really just a matter of healthy stress. Whenever I'm doing the 75, and I'm actually doing phase 2 right now, which I don't know if you familiar with like phase 2 and phase 3?
Yeah, the entire Live Hard program.
Yeah,
I'd like to
so
get started on phase one. What's crazy though, my shower doesn't even get cold. So
yes,
I gotta figure something out. But I'd like to
that
get
is the tricky part. Yeah, because in Texas, mine gets cold, like not as cold as I would like it to be, but when I'm doing the hotel, because for anybody listening, if you don't know, like you have phase 1, you have to take a 5-minute cold shower,
yeah.
um, and in the winter, it's it's so tough. But yeah, I don't know. I know Andy talks about in his book if it doesn't get cold where you are, go shower at your gym.
Yeah.
I don't know if your gym gets cold like that, but
Oh
he
yeah, that's true.
basically is like, yeah, you could just do it after you do your class or something. But yeah, it's healthy stress and it's stress that and discomfort that allows you to grow because we're just in our world, we're just so comfortable. We have roofs over I mean, not everywhere in the world, but we have roofs over our head. We usually, have food in our bellies. We can order groceries and get them in a span of like an hour. You can basically deliver anything. You can deliver anything from CVS. And our brains are not meant to have no challenges. And I think with these days we have so many depression, anxiety, and things like that, and not that those things aren't real. I know that they're real, but if you focus on other things that give you that discomfort, your brain doesn't go to those dark places as much. It goes to the, shoot, I have to take a 5-minute cold shower, oh my gosh, I have to work out, oh, I have to read, instead of, oh, I don't really like myself today, or like, oh, like you don't really have time to think about things like that when you're thinking about those other things that are really important. So that's why I am like if there was like a number one fan of the 75, I think I would take the title. I'm gonna do it probably every year. I mean, my goal is to do the Live Hard this year. And I'm on phase one, but I've restarted 3 times already. So I've probably had to restart, like with the 75, with the phase one, with everything. I've had to restart probably like 15 times. But at the end of it, when I finish it, I'm not going to be thinking, oh, I had to restart 15 times. I'm going to think, oh, I finished it. It's not about how many times you fail, it's how many times you get back up. So,
That
yeah.
Man, that couldn't be a better, honestly, a better place to leave it. I honestly, that we can keep rolling, and well, dude, we're gonna get you back on for like a part two with this because there's a lot more that we can talk about. But that's a solid place to really close out. Is like for anything, whether you're doing Live Hard program, like when it cut, like the fact that you went into detail, like I had to start over this many times. So for people out there listening, when it comes to if it's your health or it's a business or it's a job you want, like just know, like starting over that many times, like that's what drives you. That's what's going to drive you to succeeding. Like you're not going to win on
Yeah.
the first time. You're not going to do anything on the first time. And that right there is like a true testament. But I
Yeah.
want to,
And sorry, go on.
oh no, touch on one. Yeah. Give one
I
last
was
thing.
just gonna say, usually like with your failures and your mistakes, that's when you that's when you learn and grow the most. When you mess up, like that is when you learn. And when you fail, whenever I fail, usually when I restart, I'm just a little bit stronger. I have a mindset of, okay, time to like buckle down and be even more serious. And when I when and if I do fail on the challenge, like it's crazy because now I'm not even like, oh man, I failed. I'm like, oh, I get a restart, and I'm still blessed to be doing this challenge because I'm seriously just so motivated when I am on the challenge. So if I'm on day 15 and I have to restart, I'm like, those 15 days weren't wasted. Those 15 days were spent doing like self growth. So it's not a waste. It's just, hey, I'm starting over. So yeah, that's all I want to say.
yeah, it's just good practice. But
Yeah.
before we sign off, where I wanted to give you the opportunity. Number one, I mean, if anybody's thinking about becoming a flight attendant, can they contact you? One, so if they got more questions for you,
Yeah.
and then where are they able to find you? If you had, I mean, whether it's social media, or if you had an email, or if you had a website or anything like that, kind of let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah. So my Instagram is the fit underscore flight attendant. And I post a lot on there. I have a few videos of how to become a flight attendant. If you have any questions, you can DM me. I do get quite a few DMs, but enough where I can keep up with them. So you can always DM me and ask me if you do want to be a flight attendant. My best advice is just go to whichever airline you want to work for, their website, and you can kind of opt in for emails of when they are hiring. So that would be the best thing. Like for me with Southwest, I signed up for emails to get notified when that hiring window is. And then they said the hiring window opens in a week, and then I was able to apply. You can also email me anything at flightattendantrose@gmail.com.
Awesome. No, I really appreciate you coming on. Hang out real quick. I'm going to walk this one out. And
Okay.
no, appreciate you. And we'll be talking soon. And we're going to get some fitness content out there for the people.
I look forward to it. Thanks for
Awesome.
having
Take care.
me.
Absolutely. Thank you guys once again for listening. That wraps up episode 120. Great advice right there from Rose, the fit flight attendant. Honestly, key things right there. Making no excuses on your job. If you say I would do this, but as soon as you put the but into a sentence, you've already set yourself up. You're already dooming yourself for failure. It's not the right vision to have. But more to come. Looking forward to episodes to come. Got a lot of great guests I've been talking to. If you're a driver out there, you're looking to tell your story, we have a lot of stuff happening, especially in the market right now, in the freight market. A lot of things are, Craig Fuller from FreightWave says things are heating up. There's a lot of new activity going on. Hopefully heading into quarter three, some things are changing. And then, yeah, again, want to close this one out. Hey, what we're doing here, we're raising awareness about all things driver health and wellness and honoring America's veterans. Once again, if you would like to donate, go to reachacrossamerica.org/Lombard. Let's get it rolling. If you're looking to be involved with the Reach Across America things that we have going on with triathlons, you want to be involved, you want to get your company involved, email me at mike@lombardtrucking.com. Let's do this. Would love to toot your guys' horn, to anybody's horn who wants to be involved in this, especially when it comes to gear, nutrition, anything like that. But again, guys, that's all I got for you. We're going to take it back to the bench. Till next time.